In this video, I'm going to show you how to close out PMs in MainSmart CMMS software. First of all, I'm going to show you the difference between what we call a work order and a calendar-based PM. Nearly all CMMS systems have the work order screen. However, we also added a PM screen. This PM screen is for what we like to call quick and dirty calendar-based PMs. Not a lot of bells and whistles, but very handy for closing out calendar-based type work that is repetitive or recycles. To begin with, I'll go to the work order screen. Now, this video isn't meant to be an instruction on the work order. I just want to stop here for a moment to illustrate the difference between the two screens. So the work order screen, whenever we want a new work order, we create a new record. This will be a completely new record that didn't exist in the past. Okay, so there we have a new work order. Let's contrast that to the PM screen. I'm going to the PM screen, the gray background, gray oil can, and we'll notice we've already got a lot of PMs in here. Now what happens with PMs is when you close them, they recycle themselves. And I'll illustrate this in a moment. So if we select a PM with our left mouse click, and then we go down here, we give it some hours, we may put in task completion comments, and we click the completed button, what's going to happen is this PM is going to recycle itself into a new PM with a new start date and a new due date. It's also going to archive the history for this PM that we're closing at this moment, along with the hours, any parts that may be used that are linked to the PM, and so on. So a couple things are happening here. The beauty of this screen is we don't have to keep creating new PMs every time we want them. We create them one time from the yellow background oil can, and this is discussed in another video. And then once we've created them, they simply recycle themselves in the screen. So I'll go ahead and click the completed button, and notice what happens with the start and due date. Notice they updated. This is the current date, and the due date is calculated by adding the interval, which is always going to be in days on this particular screen, to the start date to generate a new due date. Okay, so what if we have multiple PMs we want to close? Well, there's several ways we can accommodate this. We can select one row and then go down, holding our shift key, we can block select. If we hold down our control key and left click, we can multi-select or deselect. And once we have all these selected, we can go ahead and put in the hours, task completion comments, click completed, and these will all close out together. So generally the question comes up at this point is this going to add an hour for each PM, or is it going to take an hour divided equally by the 5 selected PMs? Well, you can do it either way. If we go to the options menu, we have these two menu items. Divide completion time by all selected rows, which is currently checked, which means it would split up the hour by 5 different PMs and apply the minutes to each accordingly. If we use this selection here, it would apply an hour of labor time to each of these, which would be 5 hours. So in this case, I'm going to go with the divide. I click completed, and you'll notice it closed them all out at once. So again, it archived into history and then also closed out the PM itself and recycled it. Okay, so what if we don't want to have to sort through here and find the particular ones that need to be closed? Well, there's some ways to accommodate that as well. So the lower part of the screen is strictly for filtering the PMs. So if we want to just look at a particular piece of equipment, we can select that, and you'll notice it filtered by that. Perhaps we just want the weeklies. We can pick 7, and you'll notice that we have those. Now we can go ahead and select them and close them out as needed. Another option that you can use here on this screen, and if I right click and pick display all PMs, I'll get everything back. Okay. Alternatively, I could defeat my filter just by selecting the blank, and that will return all the PMs. Okay. Alternatively, we can close these in different ways, and what these are specifically is we can use the check use due date, and we can also check use average, either or both. Okay, so if we check use due date, what's going to happen is when we select a group of PMs, I'll just select a couple here, and I'm going to uncheck use average for now. You'll notice what the dates are on here. Okay, what MainSmart is going to do, it's going to take the due date, make it the new start date, and then generate a new due date. So notice what happens. Okay, it wants me to add some hours, so I'll put some hours in there. Okay, so it just simply recycled those by using the original due date. So what would be the significance of this? Well, suppose whoever closes out the PMs, maintenance lead man or supervisor, for example, is gone on vacation for a week, and these don't get closed for a week. If you just came in here and selected them and didn't use due date, then it would close them out today. So it would show them all late a week. Now I know these dates don't correspond with being a week late, but just for example. So what would happen is it would close them all out at once. They'd all be showing that they were a week late. Alternatively, if you check use due date and then close them once and then check it again and close them the second time, it will catch up and you won't show any late PMs. Okay, this is assuming they were actually done on time during your absence. The other option here is use average. Now, use average should only be checked if you've been using the system for some period of time, usually a few months. What happens is, as you enter hours for closing out your PMs, MainSmart will derive an average amount of time it takes to close a particular task at a particular interval against a particular piece of equipment. It will go back and look at all the times that was closed for that particular record and generate an average and use it automatically and insert it into the hours completed field. All right, so the other thing it does with that average is, hopefully I have some data here that we could look at, it will bring up a amount of time that it actually takes to complete. In general, you'll notice on this you have some average amounts of time. Some of these didn't get closed and have an average on them yet. So there's a couple ways that's used. So check use average, use due date, might save you a little bit of time. The other thing is we do have permissions in the program, and this is material probably for another video, but just to put this out there, we do have permissions in the program that give you the opportunity for some user groups, for example, basic or power user, what have you, to force them to always close it on today's date. So what will happen is this will be grayed out, and the user, when they close out the PMs, it'll always use whatever the date is, so they can't backdate it. And this will encourage them to get in here and close out their PMs when they're completed and not let that drag on. So that's just a quick overview of the PM screen. If you'd like more information on this, give us a call or shoot us an email. I hope this video is helpful.